Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I'm very happy one more time I have the opportunity to be with dear friends of the Zikr MIT Shia Muslim Association. First of all, I uh, express my condolences for the anniversary of the passing away of Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, which was yesterday, 25th of Shawwal. As Dr. Musallai said, the general discussion of this mini-series, the general title is the discussion of the story of Dhu al-Qarnayn in the Quran. And in this lecture, we focus on the verses and partially the commentary and maybe a little bit about the hadiths, if time allows, or even we decide to do that. So I will start and a little bit explain more as we progress through and when I'm going to discuss the abstract. But because of the occasion and because of the blessing, I decided to put two of the sayings of Imam Sadiq alayhi salam. The first one, it says, there is no life more glorious than possessing meritorious ethics and morals. This is in the book al-Sharaya by Sheikh al-Sadur. And the second saying, Imam Ja'far Sadiq alayhi salam, is being cheerful and affable with people is by itself half of the wisdom. So as the abstract, which was posted in the group, this has kind of mentioned or discussed, is this, the plan is to have 3-lecture discussion. And the first one, as we did the same for the first surah Ghalam, the first verses, which was generally accepted to reveal to the Prophet Muhammad, Surah 96, I want to go to the more traditional commentary and look into it. And then this will be this lecture, and maybe a little bit goes to the next lecture. And then the issue of the identity or historicity of the Dhu al-Qarnayn, and also the associated or related idea or the name Gog and Magog, Ya'juj and Ma'juj, which has come in these verses, has mentioned in these verses, and associated with Dhu al-Qarnayn. And so that will cover the next lecture, and maybe and then what different people propose and whether it matches the verses, or whether the whole issue of historicity is correct way to go through. And then the third one, is some of the questions or challenges Western academia has raised, or some interesting thing, which I think actually has affected Muslim scholars from classical times, is the similarity, or at least the alleged similarity of the Quranic narrative with some other late antique narratives about Alexander, or something called Alexander Romans, or mostly in Syriac, and see whether there are similarities, what those similarities mean. So this is the outline of the talk, and then so that's kind of intend to go through that. I kind of lectures will be, there are lots of material to cover, and then hopefully with the help of you guys and discussion, we can go through it, and maybe we adjust the course a little bit if we need it, depend on the feedback and reducing or extending the discussion. Look, if you look, I have this picture in the front. This is about the Dhu al-Qarnayn, the wise king. I guess he's the Dhu al-Qarnayn, and this is the people coming to talk to him. This is a Persian miniature. I saw first this picture, but then I noticed the complete version is this. And then let's read it. Dhu al-Qarnayn building a wall with the help of the jinns to keep away Gog and Magog. Persian miniature from a book of Falname copied by the Safavid Emperor Tahmasp I, currently preserved in Chester Beatty Library in Dublin. And that's kind of our dilemma is, the whole talk and the whole this series of discussion. How much of the Dhu al-Qarnayn we have to keep it historical and human, and how much of it is more than human? And then maybe people say, is it this question right? Because we have the Solomon, the prophet, with the jinns work for him, and then many of these story people have parallel image, the story of Dhu al-Qarnayn with the Solomon. So what's wrong jinns working with Dhu al-Qarnayn? And then, you know, the jinns have the, I mean, it's like the Persian Deef type of them type of shape. And then they're building the dam, which you have heard about it. So that's the whole challenge. Because we see the Muslim world in the last 1,000 years, especially classical period, and the many hadiths narrations, sometimes uh, Zulqarnain becomes really a mythical figure. I mean, if I want to keep, I mean, really, it's not just I'm looking by Western standards or academic standards. There are many, many things added to the story, and it's very complicated. And I think none of them are in the Quran necessarily. Some are mentioned in hadiths or commentary, definitely. The hadiths are so complicated that even Allah Tabatabai kind of explicitly mentions it, and he really wants to just to mention them and not much delving in it. And this is the challenge and complexity it is, and the confusion even. They're contradictory. Who is Zulqarnain? What level we have to think? Okay, my goal, you know, so I have to use, I'm trying to make it Zulqarnain historical and reading the verses with not much this miraculous metaphysical aspects in it. I'm not saying it's not there. It is in the Quran for Solomon, but not, I don't believe it is, it could be understood or should be understood the same thing for Zulqarnain. This is my project. I may fail in it. It's not easy as you go through. It's complicated, and especially when we go to the third lecture, another dimension is added to it. But that's exactly the person who want to have the picture have cut it down from here. You know, you can see the first picture is cut it down. Okay, and then you see the legs are cut, and then that's I'm not going to do that, but I'm going to go close reading, and I think much of those layers are stories or meet people added. And if we put them aside, I think we can get a better understanding. And then we can try to see whether we can identify the historical person. Even Shan and Nuzuls, all of them are many layers. I mean, you know, I wanted to bring the hadiths. I kind of give it up for now. Even the same idea, Allama Tabatabai says, you know, should we go discuss the detailed hadiths? They're all contradictory, but okay, well, we see some of it. So that's, I think this miniature has somehow tell us what the story is. The other thing is this is a little bit exciting. This is Quran recently came out, just February, and I just heard about it last week. It's a very beautiful translation, prose. These guys are two Western working academia. Habib is Muslim, and Bruce Lawrence is a very well-known guy, have books about the history of Quran. And I was going to use this because even the Paul Williams from Blogging Theology very recommended. It's very beautiful prose. But in the middle of the work, I noticed it is beautiful because it's very smooth, and I think it's imitating somewhat Ali Ghuli Gharai, but it seems, again, some of the translation is really interpretation. Some of the words, I was working today, I noticed some of the words are chosen at the possibility. What actually the whole Quran is not, you can go different translations, different understanding, which Ali Ghuli Gharai is really, in this regard, is great. So I changed it. I went back to Ali Ghuli Gharai, which is usually I do. And that's important. I think sometimes we have some background, some ideas from hadiths, other ways. We read it, including myself, read it, the whole story with all the background. This time I think I agree is the better way to do the way Western scholarship is doing. They really put aside all the hadiths and just going to the Quran. And then one feature also we see the good thing about the story of Zulqarnain is only on one place. So I'm using Ali Ghuli Gharai. This is a beautiful translation to read, but also the publication unfortunately doesn't have Arabic. I mean, the goal maybe was to dissociate you from Arabic, which is I don't think as a Muslim is good. Ali Ghuli Gharai still I think is the best translation. Want to go back, especially for the youth or Muslim, to bring you back to the text, although it does it phrase by phrase, verse by verse, and so on. The other thing is the commentaries. Both of these, Study Quran is very famous. It's must to have. If you want to buy any Quran, any digital or electronic, this must be the first on the list. I have went through the commentary of this, but again, I'm not sure. Then I decided to not sure to whether we go line by line. If we have time, I maybe have to go through that. Okay. Now, to understanding this Zulqarnain story, also there is a question which block of verses we are going to use. As is mentioned in the abstract, I'm going to claim the block is the verses of 83 to 102. And actually, that last three verse 100, 101, 102 are not exactly part of the story, but it seems is the continuation. Uh, and actually, it put a different important nuance to whole some part of the story, which makes the interpretation, especially finding historical person, harder. And if I put that three verses out, my project would be easier, but that's what I'm saying. We cannot do that. And interestingly, both the Quranic translation, which I showed to you, the recent one, the Bruce Lawrence and Alama Tabatabai, all consider this one block. Because sometimes partitioning is not as clear too. But this surah is good. One interesting feature this surah has, Surah Kahf, very clearly can partition it. Okay, the one which is really vanguard or pioneer in doing this finding structure of the surahs is Angelica Neuwirth. He has a famous book in German. I'm not sure it's translated to English yet or not. It's, we can understand studying composition der Meccan surah. So some study in the structure of the Meccan surahs. He break the Surah al-Kahf in this big three sections. I will go through that. There is one section 1, which is verses 1 to 8. And then the middle section, which is everything happening over there. So this is introductory part. And this is all the stories which we'll see it is there, 9 to 102, including, our stories about Dhu al-Qarnayn will cover verses 83 to 102. And then the latter part, which is a concluding part. So this is following his model of tripartite structure in Meccan surahs. But one interesting thing, or one not maybe acceptable tradition Muslim is that he has a little bit played with the verse numbers, and he break two of the verses in two parts. So added two verses, so effectively had made the surah 112 verse. And this is one of the features she does. She's working on it, giving her critical edition and commentary out, because she really believes on rhyme such, and then we Muslims also, the order of surahs are the same, but we have some differences of numbering of the surahs from old manuscripts. So that's, in case of itself, is not such a big deal. And then he find this really pattern of 8 the beginning and the end, 8 verses, and the middle part, which is now instead of I think it's 96, 96 surahs instead of being 96 verses instead of 94. But okay, we don't go to this one. I want to say, then she concludes some into parallelism. The next level they believe some ring structure exists in this surah and so on, but you don't want to go through that. What the one we are going to do is a simpler division, which the translation by Bruce Lawrence, which the one, as I said, just came out and has done it. That's one feature his translation has partitioned each surah, which is the same Yusuf Ali had it, but Yusuf Ali's translation, which was very popular for a while, is a little bit more smaller partitions. So if we looked at the surah, which, as Dr. Masala said, our friends in Boston are studying, we have first introductory 8 verses, and then first another 8 at the end. I call the concluding remarks. And then we have the story of companion of the cave. Then we have that story of the 2 persons which have gardens, and they go over there. One of them was very kind of arrogant, and then he really thought his wealth always will be with him, but he lose it. And then there are very important middle part of the surah remarks. And then the very other intriguing, difficult, challenging, interesting story of Moses and Khizr. And then the story which we want to focus on, Dhu al-Qarnayn. And all is important here. One of the feature again here is that these stories are only one upcoming Quran. Other stories like Moses or Qawm Samud or other ones, people of Saleh, other ones have got many different chapters. But the stories in this chapter all have just come in this chapter. So that's one feature. And then the reason I said, we'll see next lecture, some of these stories are mixed together. As you know, many people think, especially in Western Islamic world, that Zulqarnain was Alexander. And then we have some story about Alexander and meeting Khizr, even in the Persian literature, like Nizami. This is the topics we have to say. And that's also a complication. And even the Sha'n al-Nuzul, which I really want to put it aside, mix them, And so knowing where the story was located and in which surah or in which context, and because they're all three very catchy stories. Honestly, you hear them, is with you, Khazar has so complicated moral questions in it. Zulqarnain is interesting. Companion of the cave is always, attracts you. And then some people have looked at it, very interesting features. In all of these, you have a barrier. Here is barrier between death and life. People die, are living, they're dying for 300 years. Not dying, sleeping, but in the border of death, and then raising, and then immediately dying. Here you have in this story, even here, we have the difference between being wealthy or losing your wealth suddenly, two phases very close. Here, two seas uh, that come to each other, two persons come to each other, Bahrun al-Tafiyan, and then here also the two mountain, which is dam is built in it. There are many symbolism and then many Sufi commentaries, spiritual commentaries. If you want to do that kind of commentary, this is an absolute great field, and people have done a lot of things. That's the other thing. I'm not going that direction. I really no symbolic, no spiritual, no Sufi, no metaphysical commentary. I prefer my goal is to keep it on the surface of the letter and historical as far as we can. But maybe we can't. At the end, this also we have to see. Okay, so I think it's better. Let me see if any comment has come through. I say also my greetings to all our dear friends. Inshallah, and the questions discussion, we go through it. So look, I prefer first let's read it. Then I will come back and then maybe discuss some of this. I first will read it. I'm not going to read the Arabic, but then you guys can read it while I'm reading it. And this time I'm reading it without any commentary. Let's read just all the 11, about 20 verses. Um, uh, I mean, anyway, I read the English. You can look the Arabic. They ask the concerning Zulqarnain, say, I will rehearse to you something of his story. Verily, we established his power on earth, and we gave him the ways and the means to all ends. One such way he followed, or one way he followed, until when he reached the setting of the sun, he found it set in a spring of murky water. Near it, he found a people. We said, O Zulqarnain, thou hast authority either to punish them or to treat them with kindness. So it goes one travel, it seems, toward the west. At least people assume Zulqarnain, if we assume it's real, we assume it's somewhere in Eurasia, Asia, I mean, this continent, not in, for example, South America, Australia, or somewhere like that. So the sunset is to the west and sunrise to the east, and so on. Okay. He said, whoever doth wrong, him shall we be punished, then shall he be sent back to his Lord, and he will punish him with a punishment unheard of before. But whoever believes and works righteousness, he shall have a goodly reward, and easy will be his task as we order it by our command. Then he followed another way until when he come to the rising of the sun, he find it rising on a people for whom we had provided no covering protection against the sun. He left them as they were. We completely understood what was before him, or around him, or surrounding him. Then followed he another way, he climbed another path, until when he reached a track between two mountains, he found beneath them a people who scarcely understood a word. They said, O Zulqarnain, the Gog and Magog do great mischief on earth. Shall we then render thee tribute in order that thou mightest erect a barrier between us and them? He said, the power in which my Lord hath established me is better than tribute. Help me, therefore, with strength and labor. I will erect a strong barrier between you and them. Bring me blocks of iron at length. When he had filled up the space, and in new translation, this at length, I think is a typo. That is not there. It doesn't make sense. So bring me the, I forgot to take it out. I know the one, it is available online, has it, but the one I think he changed, because there are 6 translation now. This is, okay, bring me the blocks of iron. When he had filled up the space between the 2 steep mountain sides, he said, blow with your bellows. Then when he had made it red as fire, he said, bring me that I may pour over it molten lead. Thus were they made powerless to scale it or dig it through. Thus were they made powerless to scale it or dig through it. He said, this is a mercy from my Lord, but when the promise of my Lord comes to pass, he will make it into dust, and the promise of my Lord is true. On that day we shall leave them to surge like waves on one another. The trumpet will be blown, and we shall collect them all together. And we shall present hell that day for unbelievers to see all spread out, unbelievers whose eyes had been under a veil from remembrance of me and had been unable even to hear. Do the believers think that they can take my servants as protectors besides me? Verily, we have prepared hell for the unbelievers for their entertainments. Okay, these are the verses so that we covered, and the last 3, is a little bit different, but I think it's natural continuation of the story, because clearly 303 will be different. Okay, now let's go to the first verse. So here they say, clearly said, yes, Alunika and Zulqarnain. So somebody is asking Prophet about Zulqarnain or Zulqarnain. Who they are, okay, hadiths say they're essentially mushrikeen, but mushrikeen got the question from the Jews of Medina. So send some people to the Jews to, okay, give us some challenging question to test Prophet Muhammad with it, and they come back with this question. The other thing is that those Shannon Nuzul have expanded this, and they make it, there was 3 questions. Yes, Alunika and Ru, and also even maybe the story of Ashab al-Kahf, sleepers of the cave. But if you go to the verses of Quran, there is no yes Alunika over there. There is nothing like that. So, okay, Ruh is another chapter. Sanuka and Ruh is another chapter, maybe another story. And here is only Yasalunika. And I mean, and then the reason I'm saying always believers questions, why did you should ask about some Christians, Christian miracles? They wouldn't do that. Although I know there are some more complicated stories about that recently. But I'm saying let's read it closely. Here, yeah, this story, somebody is asking Prophet, so they knew something about Zulqarnain. It is not something that some stories, even God says, you, Prophet, didn't know about this, so let them know other people. And this is something generally was known. And then they were asking some of the details, and God is not telling them, okay, I will tell you some of it, something of it, not many details, but some important part, or the part you have to focus on it, or is interesting, or has some lesson for you in the Quran. We have to come back some of these to clarify who's yes Alunika, but it seems this is the part. Now, this is the part I think, we have to see how to interpret it. If not, we diverge. If we want to keep it historical underground, we have to look at differently. If not, then traditionally we can move the Zulqarnain very, very different direction. So, and now مكنا له في الأرض وآتيناه من كل شيء سببا. So we already established his power on earth. Look, this, and we have given him the ways and the means to all ends. So what is the مكنا له في الأرض? It means give him power and establishment on the land. It seems a kingdom. I mean, this is essentially authority. The way he acts is just tamakun. We can go to some detail of discussion. I mean, he has his means, and this usually means is as a political authority, rulership, kingship.
because then people have used many different things about it. Oh, he has control of the roads, the ways, geographical roads, means, paths. I mean, no. I mean, this means it's like have an authority, political authority to him. Um, some ability to do what he wants, but in some level. And then آتَيْنَاهُ مِنْ كُلِّ شَيْءٍ سَبَبًا. Okay. Now, this to كل شيء is important and sabab is important. Because interestingly, in this verse, the sabab repeats a lot. I mean, okay, let's see to the Quran how many sababs have came. You see this literal root sabab 11 times in Quran and in two derived forms. Yasubbu means very differently, and so two times as yasubbu and nine times as non-sabab. And then you see yasubbu means insult. Wala tasubbu allazina yad'una min dunillah, regarding the cursing the idols. فَيَسُبُّ اللَّهَ عَدُوًّا بِغَيْرِ عِلْمٍ. You know, these are back to back. You say if you curse the idols, they start to also say bad things regarding God from ignorance or not, lack of knowledge. So don't do that. So this root is different, but the root we have, and you see all many of it is in this few verses. You know, 4 of it already is out of 11 is in this verses regarding Dhu al-Qarnayn. So this is the first one. And now مكنا في الأرض وَأَتَيْنَاهُ مِنْ كُلِّ شَيْءٍ سَبَبًا. So means a course. I mean, here means it means the ability, the tool, the authority to do something. But the other ones mostly means fatba'u sababan, summa atba'u sababan, summa atba'u sababan. He take a course, he take a path, he take a one way to go. So this is the sabab, but this is the kull shay'an. You know, that's the question. I mean, when you say kull shay'an means what? It means everything, everything. Because if we go that line, everything, then you have to assume this. I mean, this must be very, very, very powerful and has some mythical or miraculous power. At least like the one who bring the throne of Queen of Sheba with Solomon. Does Zulqarnain was that type of person? If that type of person, it goes out of history. I mean, it must be a prophetic person, which we don't know. And that's the question, the other question. Was he a good man? It was a prophet, or it was a muhaddis? All of these are, because of the verses are discussed. My opinion is that he's not a prophet. And Allah Ta'ala says, not necessarily muhaddis, but although that is not easy to necessarily deny because of the verses. This is Jabati Amali was kind of discussing that, but definitely good person, a saleh person, a very virtuous ruler, and that's also important when we want to go identity of who he is. But this discussion of kol, I think, is important, and I think is not only here in other texts of Quran. Look, if it's kol related to Quran, kol shay'in, كل شيء God is have knowledge respect to all shays. Yeah, this call is called كل شيء عليم, كل شيء مهيد, كل شيء قدير. These are for God. But when the كل شيء is used for human beings besides God, it doesn't mean كل. I mean absolute call. It doesn't mean, for example, when أتيناه من كل شيء سببا, he has airplane to fly. I mean, Zulqarnain, or he had the carpet of Solomon, if that's mythical one. Or that's I want to show you the examples of verses in Quran, because this is important. I'm adopting a line. If I want to keep to the line, this kulla shay'in must get its meaning. I'm saying it's not literal, it's figurative. For example, this is a little bit different. This is not kul, but I put this first and then we go to the kul. No, for example, this is about Ad, Roma Ad, and which is the Hud, Prophet Hud's tribe, which God says, look, have you not regarded how your Lord dealt with the people of Ad and Aram, the city of the pillars? I think this is what the city, the like of which needs not created among cities. Okay, so التي لم يخلو مثلها في البلاد, how we have to take it? Is it something Never, nobody has built something that big, that quality. I mean, what does it mean? Lam yakhluqu mislahu. What means mis? But because we have no high risers, buildings, which I don't think anyway. I mean, in that sense, ancients can be bigger than that. And even in ancient times, is a little bit questionable that uh, the art has something comparable with Egyptian pyramids. But it could be unique, could be new the first time, could be unique, a limited area. We have the same question for the Noah's flood. Now we see is Noah's flood couldn't be the whole earth, but it could be limited, local, or I mean, not very small area, but the around basin or something like that. I mean, this is not the best example, but because the next verse says Samud and Lazina Jabu Sakha Belwad, this could be the new thing with this guy's maybe built a type of building which no civilization before that has built it. Okay. But it doesn't mean that it's something that nobody has surpassed. It's so big, nobody can surpass. Okay, but this wasn't Kol in it. So the next verses, I want to go to the verses with Kol. This is about Queen Sheba, which will come back to Solomon and reports. إني وجدت امرأة تملكهم وأوتيت من كل شيء وله عرش عظيم. So I found a woman ruling over them, and she has been given everything. What do we mean given everything? That she has iPhone, cell phone, I mean, electricity, tailors. It can go. She didn't have those stuff. I mean, so this is the norm of that time. You see some wealthy guys, Bill Gates guy or Elon Musk guys, he has everything, that's we talk. I mean, they're really too much wealthy, even much less than them. I mean, millionaires also we say have. Allah Ta'ala also says, if you say some guy to the mountain or going to somewhere, going hunting for some deers, and then you see another hunter, the guy told him to the jungle, the hunter told him, oh, don't go over there, there's nothing there. Nothing there doesn't mean nothing there. There is nothing for hunt. So you have to know sometimes the poetic language of Quran and is not so exact, is a little bit poetical exaggeration, but to the context, common sense language of communication to be beautiful. And I think, but when you put a lens and too much zoom it, and then maybe under influence of also the people of the book, the stories, Israelites, this Kullan becomes many stories, which for Dhu al-Qarnayn, zillions of stories have been developed, even regarding his name. So I will go back to the verse, I will discuss it. So this is the first verse, because I think this way of looking to the concept of call, I think is important for some of the commentaries we have. Bring them from too much high to a little bit more down to earth. So you may see what she was reached by a certain time, but was she richer than, for example, I don't know, some queens of China or later Roman empresses? No, I don't think it's. I know there are some features in that story unique, and the CVD of Solomon, which have some string features. But look, this one. قالوا and نتبع الهدى معك. Okay, we see. Okay, this is the people which are not good. It says they say if we follow the guidance we you. Okay, maybe this other verse. They say if we follow the guidance we you will be forced out of our. We were forced out of our territory. Did we not establish a secure sanctuary for them, with fruits of all kinds are brought as provision for us, from us? Okay, this is what people of Mecca. Again, it says Samarat kull shay'an rizqan. This is good enough. I mean, you have a sanctuary which is impossible to do something agriculture in it, and then but still because of your position, because of Ilaf al-Quraysh, because of peace, now you have all type of samarat coming for you. I mean, but doesn't mean they have TV. Okay, I mean, so this kull you should, if you balance it, I think will be good. And the same we can say in other this, I know there could be some people objecting to it. Then we gave Moses the book, completing our blessing on him is virtuous as elaboration of all things, as a guidance and mercy to that may believe in the encounter with the Lord. Okay, let's see. No, that doesn't. Oh yeah, tafsiran likulli shay. Again, tafsiran likulli shay. This one is a little bit different. So it maybe has everything for salvation. We believe Quran, but doesn't have تفسيرا لكل شيء, the laws of physics, laws of biology. So I'm going back. We have to look when كل شيء is explained or associated to something besides God. The common sense means we have to understand it in commonsensically, not too much more than a typical ruler or typical thing. Yeah, this is the one first I was looking. Is there I put the order of the verses reversed? This is about not the good people necessarily. So falamma nasu ma zukiru. Yes, so when they forgot what they had been admonished of, we opened for them the gates of all good things. أبواب كل وما ذكروا به فتحنا عليهم أبواب كل شيء. So again, do we give them all the good things for these wealthy, rich, but ungodly people? No, I mean, many things they have, but full means figurative. We have them everything they wanted, but everything they wanted in this time is different than the one Abu Sufyan does, or 2,000 years ago, or 3,000 years ago, and so on. When they become a part of what they were given, we seize them suddenly, whereat behold they were despondent. Okay, this is I think the last time. Again, we have كتبنا له في الألواح, the same كل شيء. Okay, this alwa, which is given to the tablets, which given to Moses, how much on it could be, if it is a tablet, except you understand it differently. Then we have to say, or al-Kitab, for example, if it's that type, but it seems no, really was a physical tablet which Moses broke it. So this is, and then okay, this one I know will be some dispute about it because we have some special feature regarding Solomon and David. ورث سليمان داود قال يا أيها الناس علمنا منطق الطير وآتينا من كل شيء إن هذا هو الفضل المبين. Again, I think still we have to be limited a little bit كل شيء, but I know here the limitation may be less. So if we have this in mind, then we come back to the Dhu al-Qarnayn. We have to know typically he's a great ruler, has means in his hand like a typical great ruler in history. We shouldn't make it mythical. Then we can keep it historical if we understand Kol Shay'in like that. And then regarding, and say the names of Qarnayn, the owner of two horns or possessor of two horns. Look, if you look to the hadiths, there are very strange stories over there. I mean, sometimes they say literally has horn, and then you have to cover his head by ammama, and that started people wearing ammama. The other one said people broke his head. One time he was talking with people, then come the other side. Then the one side, I don't know, horn grew or they become injured. Then the other side, people stone him. All these different stories. And even his personality, some make them angels, some of these strange stories make his mother was human, his father was angel, or vice versa. So I'm saying some of those hadiths, so-called hadiths, commentaries, or Israeliyat, which although this is not a story from Jewish books, has pushed it really to mythical. And that's, I think, is better let's put aside. For now, let's really focus on it, but Allah may mention some of them if we have time. We may look at it. Okay. Now, so this having in mind, he has many means, but I don't know. I mean, why Quran in this section use this phrase sababa a lot. I mean, this could be mysterious, but it couldn't be that excellent. But then fa'atba'a sababa, but here it means he choose a course, a path of action. Because of the means, he has the wealth, he can go and he go to travel. Going travel also needs money, wealth, means of doing it, and so on. For example, regarding the Achaemenids, Cyrus and Darius, they really travel a lot because they usually actually they weren't in Persepolis in Iran. They mostly were Babylonian in Iraq, and then they have a common habit to travel a lot. And then the stories are there when the caravan they had was huge when they're traveling, and much of because they were nomadic people also. Like some of later kings of Iran, they like to travel. They like to be like Nader, for example, the king of Iran. They like to be in the out in the nature or walking around. So they travel a lot. So, but being able as a king to traveling, you need to means. The latter kings of Iran, the Raja period, didn't have much money. They borrowed from Europeans to travel visit Europe. So you don't need to assume this is a very strange travel. I mean, traveling on the wind or something. Okay. حتى إذا بلغ مغرب الشمس. So I am reading it to keep it on the ground and historical. I know a couple of points may be challenging, and already maybe you have questions about it. I'm really much willing to discuss it. حتى إذا بلغ مغرب الشمس وجدها تقرب في عين حمئة فوجد عندها قوما قلنا يا ذا القرنين إما أن تعذب إما أن تتخذ فيهم حسنا. Now, he went to the west till notice the sunset in a murky, muddy water. Okay, there is a reading associated with Muawiyah, it seems to hadiths, instead of Hami'atan, which is a dark, Ain means spring or water, and Hami'atan means dark. He read hot, Hami'atan. As read it, I read it hot water, okay, instead of murky water. That doesn't change much, but I think this is the correct reading. Everybody has read it, so put Muawiyah aside. The point is this, look, people have made a lot of these, and then they say this must be eastern front of civilization. This must be, okay, maybe if it's Alexander, it must be the age of Atlantic Ocean. I'm serious. And look, if any of you have gone near a decent size of body of water, which I have experienced it, I think, for the sunrise in Lake Huron, which is not that big, sunset in Lake Michigan, and once, okay, Atlantic Ocean for sunrise, Florida. Okay, you really feel, if you're going early, before and after morning, you feel sun is really coming out of ocean. If it's open, if it's a big lake, and it's setting in, and interestingly, look, okay, the murky water may be really a dark water, so maybe Black Sea is a good candidate. Black Sea has the name, is not red, is not something, is Black Sea, which is really good candidate for all these historical figures. But the point is this, when sunset, if you look to the play of the colors, because sun is down, is bigger, reddish, yellowish, the water doesn't see bluish, it becomes dark. So if you look at poetical one, this is really explaining, okay, it's near body of water, which is sun apparently is sitting in it, and it is okay, darky or murky water. So it's not very strange. You don't need to make it a huge trip and necessarily the end of the civilization, end of the land. Any body of the decent water you see, and then you can see sunset in it. You see, because sunlight comes down, the red kind of is more reddish, and it's the water is more darkish. But the point here, which is challenging, it seems we find the people which are you find the people over there, but we don't know what's the situation is. And then but Qulna, okay, apparently means God or angels talk with Zulqarnain. And that is the basis of many commentaries that say, okay, Zulqarnain must be at least a muhaddis, some God or angels talk to him, or maybe even a prophet. We have one hadith says Imam Ali alayhi salam said he wasn't a prophet, but I think it's from Ahl Sunnah. There are many hadiths here, so it makes the whole story a little bit complicated. But both Allama Tabai and Al Jawadi Amuli are arguing this not necessarily means the communication is direct via angels. It's kind of the type of communication the Quran says, with the mother of Moses, even there they use not vac, they use the word vac. So it could be an inspiration, But although I agree, I was more categorically rejected that this is a direct talk. But Jawadi was a little bit more cautious, said, okay, this necessarily doesn't prove it's a vague or direct communication or what we call prophet and muhaddis, but at least okay, but we cannot necessarily reject it too because it's strong. And then the other side shows this guy must be good. I mean, the way, at least the sense of the talking, the sense of respect, the sense of authority, and also some people use this from free will, that he can decide. He's given that he must be some person that the Uller Am sense that he can do this. And then, but what is the mistake they do? What is the crime they have to need to punish, or what? And it seems it is mixed. Though has either to punish them or treat them with kindness. Is it many people say they're shirk, or they're mischieving? There's something wrong, maybe bandits or stuff like that. I mean, later if we want to discuss historical, maybe you have to look at even the historical people over there. I mean, there could be tribes, they do raids. There was law, there was a natural law over there, that this tribe attacked this one, and there were maybe nomadic type of people. And then the answer of Zulkarnain is interesting. It said, whoever doth wrong, him shall we punish. But so means not these people, all of them are not evil or sinful. So possibly it's not about being polytheists, because most probably they were. I don't. But maybe they were, but he invited them to something of monotheism or something like that. whoever قال أما من ظلم فسوف نعذبه ثم يرد على ربه فيعذبه عذابا نكرا. So if somebody does wrong, it will be punished. We will punish him. Maybe it's a theft, it's a murder. And what is the punishment is not very clear too. I mean, just we punish him. And then ثم يرد إلى ربه يعذبه عذابا نكرا. So then after this life, this guy, which is not doing, it was zalim, it was not doing good, will get I will punish it as a ruler, as an agent of God. Even God in another verse says that we send down iron as kind of sign of the rulers can do punishment and establishing justice. So that's accepted. And then so somewhere we can say he as a ruler establish order. That's the whole thing. Government, ruler establishing justice and order. That's the talk of this country. I mean, even the former president always does claiming he's going to do that. Okay, former president of the United States. So, and then he's also saying, look, it's not only punishment in this world. This is a general rule that everybody returns to his God, and God will punish these guys which are not good. But okay, azab and nukra is from nakara or unknown or are is not recognized or people haven't heard it. It kind of gives sense. Okay, this may be tough punishment because nobody have heard it, but necessarily not necessarily. But I agree. Okay, so maybe the zone they do, the mischief they do is big. Maybe it could be kufr, maybe shirk, maybe really they're bandit, maybe doing murder, but it's not that necessarily clear what it is. But okay, at the first level it is this, but some people have paralleled it here, and then they say, okay, the next verse, that the zone must be related to iman, and then that's Allah also. I mean, the first instance you don't see what it is, but if you parallel it with the next verse, the zone most probably is related to iman, and it is about shirk, or a combination. So أما من آمن وعمل صالحا فله جزاء الحسنى. And this is not only for those people, for everybody. This is kind of the rule for everybody. And then he said, so those who believe, but is it belief in the, I mean, I'm saying those who have treated him as prophets, they're not that off too, because all of these, you feel he's functioning with, he has an authority, he's a prophet king, because he seems invite to people to iman, invite to people amal saleh. So that must be the case, but for now, at least that's not the acceptance, I mean, or the consensus that he's a prophet or anyone like that. But I'm not saying those who saying is very off. أما من آمن وعمل صالحا فله جزاء الحسنى. But this is a general rule. He's general sunnah of God. And then سنقول له من أمرنا يسرا. Then from his side, so it seems this is the general rule. If somebody believes in God and does good, he will get the reward hereafter in this world by God. But from his side, I think we will be good to him. What we request from him is not harsh or burden or something. He said, he shall have a goodly reward, and easy will be his task as we ordered by our command. So what I as a ruler of this authority, temporal authority, will not burden them. So I'm a good king. Uh, so this part, but I agree. If we're just reading Quran, we are open to go either way. Uh, but we can get it also as generally. But Amara most probably is related to polytheism or belief or something like that. And then, okay, this is the first trip. The first trip was to the west, and then you see sunset, but it's not needed to be extreme west. You're ending up in Spain or borders of France or near Atlantic Ocean or something like that. Those nonsense. Any decent size of water, you see sunset. You can see sunset. You feel it's going in, and that, as I said, you can see it here in any lake or something like that. Okay. Then again, some atba sababa, he choose uh, let me see, yeah. See, you choose another course, another way, but this time go to the east. Hatta إذا بلغ مطلع الشمس, he went, but again, people that take it too literal, so sun, the really place sun coming out. I mean, so go to the eastern border of China. No, that doesn't matter. The eastern border of China, sun doesn't come out. It doesn't matter. Eastern border of China is the same as eastern part of Iran or eastern part of Turkey or anywhere. So it's just the part that you feel. I mean, Khorasan even, is Khurasa historically is a word. Khorasan, the province of Iran, means the place that sun is rising. So if it is another lake, it really feels sun is coming out. If it is not a lake, okay, but still you may feel is Eastern. I mean, I'm saying we shouldn't read it too much in it, but people have done it, make it very mythical, very unique, very strange, and it's hard to fit it then. حتى إذا بلغ مطلع الشمس وجدها تتلو على قوم لم نجعل له من دونها سترا. Okay, so it says, then followed another way until we came to the rising of the sun. He finding it is rising on a people for whom he had not provided no covering protection against the sun. Look, this exactly has translated very exactly. Look, setran, but setran means what? Does it mean they don't have any clothing? Many people pick it because we have the words etc. or other stuff. We think they thought, okay, this means they don't dress at all. That is a little bit strange. But the point that one hadith was saying, this would be very selective. Exactly as Imam Sadiq, hadith was Shi'i, I forgot which book was. It says they have not learned to build buildings. So this, maybe they were nomadic. I'm not saying they lived in the caves, but they were not settled down. And that's one. I mean, and the one says to say if they have tents, doesn't tent cover them from sun? Yeah, I agree, could be that, but I really don't think they were that wild or barbarian. I'm not. I mean, this is another challenging part to do that. But if you say they didn't have established settlements and they were nomadic, going back and forth under the sun, they live always under the sun, it will be still acceptable, because we will see some of these verses can be interpreted as the tension or rivalry or clash between nomadic and settled people, which is, for many people, claim this is the dynamic of the engine of civilization. I mean, Ibn Khaldun have discussed it, everybody discussed it. We have it still in Darfur, other places, that the nomads coming, the settled people coming. And then, the next part of it will be that. This needs more looking to the hadiths. At least the hadith I said, maybe I have the Farsi, I can look at the English also we have, but I'm not sure whether, okay, whether we can put it or not. Okay. وَكَذَلِكَ قَدْ أَحَطْنَا بِمَا لَدَيْهِ خُبْرًا. He left them as they were. We completely understood what was before them. Okay. Quran says he didn't do much anything about them, just went over there. Okay, some people maybe thought because these guys are so wild or so backward civilized, I mean, maybe they don't have any dressing or something like that. He gave up them. I mean, that could be, but I think those are the guys she could have invited them. And then, I mean, even in Aborigines of Australia or those very people living in jungle of Amazon have some level of protection. I understand, depending on the warmth of the sun, maybe the protection, the covering is not as full we or at least we anticipated. But so whether this cetran is related to the building, which we have one hadith of Imam Sadiq said they didn't know how to build buildings or they haven't started to build buildings. And that's, a transition. You don't build buildings as far as you're nomad. You have tents, you go on your uh, cattle going around. You don't build buildings, but when you go from nomadic life to agricultural life, you have building cities, you start to build building. You have this tendency in Arabia too, Quraysh or all of the tribes have usually two parts. One is still with Bedouin and nomadic, and one were settled. Okay, so this is a clue. We need to do a little bit more about it. But it seems he didn't do anything about them, and he left them. And then the one which is the more interesting one is this one. ثم أتبع sababa. So again, he followed another way, another course, uh, until, so we are not sure which direction he is, east, west, south, north, we are not sure. Until when he reached a track between two mountains. حتى إذا بلغ بين السدين. Okay, the point is this, Quran didn't use the word Jabal or Tur. It's using Saddain. So Javadi, I'm going to put stress on it. Look, this is Saddain, so maybe, so you have to go reverse until you have some reason to claim this is mountain, which is mostly we have it. Okay, we may have a reason by the next verse. I think we have something. The next verse says, but it could be there were some barriers built, but they're not complete or damaged. I mean, like you have this Chinese wall, China's Great Wall is not al continuum. There are parts of it are open. Or even Trump's wall, the wall, the one he's building south of United States, some parts of it is some fence, some part of it there is not. So there could be some important part for whatever reason, technologically, civil engineering wise, was hard to build. So it was not completed. And that opening let those guys attack. Historically, we have had, this is in Iran, was what Iranian people, civilization was always afraid of. It was attack of Turanians, those nomadic tribes of the north, which are Central Asia, and they always worried they attack them, and it happened a couple of times, and they really, one time they go down to the Hamadan, even ransack the Median capital, so they control it for a few years. So that's attack of these nomadic tribes, always the worry of the settled people. Um, so this Sadan is interesting, but nearly everybody has considered mountain because maybe Javadi, I'm not sure Allah did notice it too, but Javadi said, look, emphasize it, that this, said, look, this word is Sadan, it's not Jabal, it's not Tur, so let's assume maybe it could be a part of the barriers which was there, maybe natural, man-made, and then is added, but it doesn't change much the story here. Any conclusion doesn't depend on it, but the fact that you have to look to the words exactly is important. And okay, either we have to understand these are crazy, not people, they couldn't understand language, they couldn't talk, but it seems what they request from Dhu al-Qarnayn means they're not that off. They're not really savages. They're not orcs. They don't understand anything. They may be talking a language which is not familiar with the type of languages Dhu al-Qarnayn knows. So it was completely different branches of language. Because this you see, government la yakaduna yafqahuna qawla. But it could be they were so stressed and worried, which they were not willing, they're really agitated, worried about the attack of the Gog and Magog, so they were not really listening much. That's a possibility. Some people have said it. Okay, then, but they request this from Dhu al-Qarnayn, so it means they really are sane and reasonable people. They said, O Dhu al-Qarnayn, so they notice is a mighty ruler with command and power. The Gog and Magog people do great mischief on earth. So that's exactly the worry they have. فَهَلْ نَجْعَلْ لَكَ خَرْجًا, and then they have money. So you see, the fact they say they're illiterate, savages, orcs, it doesn't make sense because they have money to pay him. So they must be wealthy. They must have the. So either they were very agitated or they were talking a language which is not common. Because when you make it mythical, those are language. Oh, these are very crazy, strange people. No, they're not that off. Just maybe different type of language. Okay. ماجد مرسلنا فالأسقى فهل نجعل لك خرجا على أن تجعل بيننا وبينهم سدا? Can we pay you that you build a barrier for us between me and them? So I mean, emphasize. Okay, he shows his magnanimity, or maybe now he's a ruler. He takes this as his duty. It's kind of the answer Prophet Solomon gave to Queen Sheba. Look, you give me gifts, but I have much more than what you bring to me. So kind of Solomon said, I don't need your money, or maybe it's not for good for a king. Because now he's a king, he's ruling them, so he is considered his duty. But he says, okay, you need to give me manpower, I need labor, and I need also material. So he said, the power in which my Lord has established me is better. So, and then you don't need to assume the power is a very strange thing. Everything's from God. You know, our knowledge we have, our house of Faz Rabbi. When people put house of Faz Rabbi, what doesn't mean this strange thing. It's the house I have, the money I have, the family I have, the education I have, the car I have, everything I have. I mean, Faz Rabbi, the power this guy has it, Solgani has his house of Faz Rabbi too. So, my Lord has established me is better than tribute. Help me, therefore, with strength and labor. I will erect a strong barrier between you and them. So فَيُنُنِي بِقُوَّةٍ بَيْنِي بَيْنَهُمْ. Okay. That he requests them to bring blocks of iron. This may be new technology, new way of doing things. I don't. This at length is not there, but when he feeling between. Okay, but here instead of Saddain, look, if this part was Saddain, which look, we have Saddain here and we have a Sad here. So this word was as a barrier was used. So Balaga bain Saddain. You know, this translation make it mountain. Although, okay, mountain you can say is also a barrier too. But Quran didn't use the words which we usually use for mountain, Jabal or Tur or other one. So this is, I think, Ayatollah Jawadi Amali rightly emphasized. I think this should be at least be in mind. Here you said, but then here becomes Sadafine, like the Sadaf for pearl. And the Sadafine always say should be per and both sides of it. So again, most translator again get it, and it seems is used. Sadafine get the two steep mountain sides, which is exactly the picture we have in the miniature too. So they feel it with the iron, they feel it maybe with the stones, and then they start to blow. And then, you know, the Quran is very economic. Sometimes the translator, so it says blow, you know, this blacksmiths used to blow and then to making a fire increase to make the iron red. And then he says, Hatta as a ja'alahu naran. You know, it's interestingly, look, the translator says blow with road billows. Then when he had made it red as fire. But the point is that when the iron becomes red, it seems itself is burning, you know. Prior to glowing, its temperature is going high. But when it becomes red, which is glowing, it seems itself is a fire. So the Quranic word, it doesn't say become red as fire. It says become nara, you know, it become that hot and then become melting. And then maybe then you bring molten lead. And then I saw an article in Iran, some person, civil engineering, I don't say good or bad, was working on it, why this kind of combination is a good combination, might be protecting from the rust. You know, that's the point, because if you have iron, maybe you can build it, but you don't have to be, all we know, the cold places, oxidation can happen. So maybe that's a protection. And then, I don't know, those material science part of it, but I think it makes sense. So we can look at this part, but this thing is not very strange thing. It's a very worldly civil engineering design. جعلوا نارا قال أعطوني أفرق عليها قطرا. Then he had thus where they made powerless to scale. But then he says the design of this barrier or sad was such a way that they couldn't climb above it and they couldn't dig through it or dig below it. Now, I, should we make this much mythical barrier, or could be something like China's wall, a little bit better, like Constantinople? You know, this Constantinople for a long, long, long time was protected. Nobody could conquer it. You know, one small trick they have a chain connected between the two European sides of the uh, because there are three parts: Asian side, which is not was set up recently. Erdogan built a huge mosque in it, but the two famous European side of Istanbul. So and then any ship can come. That chain somehow blocked it, and they couldn't cut the chain that easily. You know, and then if I want to spend time to cut it, it will be attacked or damaged. So you know there are some deep, and then you know the Suleiman Fateh did a very strange trick. To attack it, he take the ships from to the land for a few miles from far away from the northern part, move it on the land and drop it on the side which this chain was doesn't allow to get in. So you know, I'm saying is the wall, should we assume this wall is so strange, so different? It must be a good technological advancement for its own time and protecting for its own time, and maybe better than China wall, but not that uh, very, very miraculous dimensions in it. Okay, but I know there is one feature, the verses make things a little bit complicated. So, I mean, we said these guys were worried about Yajuj and Majuj. We didn't discuss what Yajuj and Majuj are, but it seems they were worried they attacked them. As I said, my opinion is that this is a very good match to what Iranian civilization considered Turanian. But that a little bit, we need to discuss it now, or maybe a little bit more later. Uh, yes, I actually this are yeah. Thank you. Some of the dear friends others are looking. They sent some articles, and actually this one I really maybe for the next lecture I'm going to use it. Okay, inshallah. And then so look. Uh, okay, we do this one. Then you see, Zulkarnain is humble. I mean, doesn't forget, as all of us should forget. If we got a PhD degree, write a book, become the first in the entrance of university exam, first in our class, I don't know, make lots of money stock market. We always have to remember Haza Rahmatin al-Rabbi. All Haza Rahmatin al-Rabbi. So that's not very strange, any achievement. This means a good, humble king. I mean, every good king should be like that. Then فَإِذَا جَاءَ وَعْدُ رَبِّي جَعَلَهُ دَكَّا وَكَانَ وَعْدُ رَبِّي حَقًّا. Okay, this is things makes complicated. What is this وَعْدُ رَبِّي? Okay, either you can assume that's the وَعْدُ رَبِّي is the big promise of the end of times of Qiyamah. Yes, that could be the case, but could be anything else. Anything. Look, all these kings built many huge monuments. Most of them are destroyed. We don't have any track. There are few of them is left, pyramids, a little bit of Persepolis left, a little bit, I don't know, some of the Roman Pantheon or Greek Pantheon or Roman Colosseum are left, but all are broken, all damaged. Nobody can really functionally use it. So the time they did this, that's we have to remember everything we destroy. And if even they destroyed this year, that year, 1,000 years, they will destroy it before end of time. So we have to remember everything we do at the end will be destroyed, including our life, including our achievements. All will die, all have to be. So I think this is the part, make it again, people, there is some connection with end of times. You know, that makes these verses a little hard is this. Exactly the last three verses make it hard. Till now, I think we can keep it as a big king in ancient times. And I think even here, the Rabbi is anytime the destruction, he remembers, I have achieved this achievement. I have this big building built, but I know this bridge built, but like the one in Baltimore can go easily, a few seconds go down. So the same way this I built can go down, but then he add one, okay, Maybe it says even it doesn't, I don't know when it will destroy it, but at least I know the end of times will destroy it. Then he says, okay, this is the verse made complicated. On that day we shall leave them to surge like waves. But it could be God chose this. I mean, look, this is oral, and in oral we very smoothly transitioning. And then, as I said, the main verses in this chapter, the middle ones, talking about end of times, talking about eschatology, and even one famous literary critic, Western critic, which is not an Islamist. He liked this surah. He wrote an article, was popular. It's called it Apocalypse of. He liked this surah. He says it's the most important surah of Quran, so on. Which we don't need necessarily agree with him, but he really says this is like Apocalypse of Quran. Apocalypse is the story of end of times, which I don't necessarily agree. It's not like revelation of the last book of the Bible, but okay, Gog and Magog, which we'll see, is in coming the revelation. And again, there is some complication over there. But look, maybe the story is finished here. I mean, look, story of Dhu al-Qarnayn is finished here, 98. And if we finish it here, I think it's right. Then God, because now Dhu al-Qarnayn has mentioned, okay, the promise of God is there, even this huge achievement I have done will be destroyed. Now is the time God coming, okay, guys, you remember too, it's not only Dhu al-Qarnayn, it's for all of us. Let's think what will happen. And then on that day, we shall leave them to surge like waves on one another. So you see, like wave, you see, sometimes the test, psychology tests, or I mean, tests, you drop the rats into water to swim, and they're all nearly to sinking and then suffocating or dying. I mean, not they never die, but they all swam on each other. They all push. You see, they want to survive. This is a small bucket, and they stress test. You know, want to hard them, stress test. So they push each other up and go on opposite in exactly this scenery that everybody wants to go up and push the other one out to go. I catch myself out. You know, for example, like Titanic, you have a few boats and you're in the water. You want to jump in the boat, you push other away. On that day, we shall leave them to surge like waves on one another. The trumpet will be blown, and we should collect them all together. So this a little bit topic is slowly changed, and we do not need necessarily connect the destruction of the dam to the end of times. This is Dhu al-Qarnayn says this will be destroyed today, tomorrow, 1,000, 2,000. Okay, at most at the end of times when God flattened the earth. Okay, and then now God has said, okay, in that day, which is the my promises will coming, this would happen. And then let's go to the next verse. وَعَرَضْنَا جَهَنَّمَ يَوْمَئِذٍ لِلْكَافِرِينَ عَرْضًا, and we shall present hell that day for the unbelievers. So it's reminding us, the story of Zulqarnain is finished, reminding us at the end of times, this will happen for all of us, and especially for the mushrikeen, which these guys are challenging Prophet and still they don't want to believe. And this is the middle Meccan surah, you know, that's still the relation. Prophet is hopeful, can convert them. You know, contrary to this Juan Cole and some modern scholar, I mean, this is definitely middle Meccan surah, is not Medina and so on. Even they accept it. Al-Lazina Khanat, and then he says, unbelievers whose eyes had been under a veil from remembrance of me, and who had been unable even to hear. So again, this is the discussion of what the end of times will. So slowly, like any natural dialogue, we suddenly shift from this you know, the meaning is like a chain connected and you move. So from the what Zulqarnain says, now Quran took it to the other direction. And then it says, and do unbelievers think that they can take my servant as protectors besides me? Verily, we have prepared hell for the unbelievers for the entertainment. So we can say this 3 or 4 verses, we could have treated them separately. Really, the story finished in 98. I mean, as I said, Allah may get the same block, this translate get the block. But the point is that these 4 verses are intermediate verses from the last section, which we have the same situation in other blocks of this chapter. So, for example, if you go to, okay, this way I have to go to first. If you go even to the first story of the first story, which was about the sleepers in the cave, the story finishes at the verse 26, but 26:31 is still, again, a conclusion, moral conclusion. These 4 verses are the moral conclusion of the Zulqarnain story. So story finished 98. He's sentenced which this mighty ruler. I mean, tell these guys, look, guys, you know who Zulqarnain is. You are not powerful as like him. Neither is Alexander or Cyrus. At least what who he is in their mind is a big, legendary, powerful ruler of ancient times. Okay, even Gilgamesh, anybody, one of those big ones of those few thousand years. He said this guy with these achievements, with these sababs, he's noticed everything he has achieved will be destroyed. Let alone you Mushrikeen Makkah, which you don't have achieved much, as at least comparable to that, yours will be also destroyed. And I think this is, for now, we can keep it down to earth, not to go to on the heaven. But there is one, so this surah Kahf, I think, finished. But there is one verse we have to go back because this is somehow related to Ya'juj and Ma'juj. And when people get these few verses for Surah Al-Anbiya and put it on the story of Ya'juj and Ma'juj and the Dhu al-Qarnayn, again, it's making it mythological because they think Ya'juj and Ma'juj are trapped behind the dam. At least the dam should be functionally working humanly, like the bridge in Baltimore before breaking down was functional. And this dam must have worked because at least we know Zulqarnain did a good job, is happy, is satisfied, and the dam must be functioning. And it seems some historical evidence really for such a okay, sad, not dam, barrier, sad, not dam. A barrier has worked, but the point is this: this verse, people again has understood it very eschatologically, and okay, it's partially is, but partially I think we can understood it differently. See, hara, this is the context. I put it here, but the verse is really is 96, 97. It says haramun ala qariyatin ahlaknaha annahum la yarji'un. But there is a ban on any population which we have destroyed, they shall not return. So it says if a city was punished or destroyed by God, they will not be returned. But until when? Until the Gog and Magog people are let through. But the barrier is not there. Is a futahat Yajuj and Majuj. Okay. Because it's futahat, the understanding was there somehow they have gone through the barrier. You know what I mean? So if I'm saying if I didn't put this verse, I would in good position and things will settle down, I think. This verse, because it's out of surah, is a little make things more complicated again. Until the Gog and Magog people are let through the barrier and they swiftly swarm from every hill. Then will the true promise draw nigh of fulfillment. Then behold, the eye of the unbelievers will fix these state in horror. Ah, vow to us, we were indeed heedless of this, nay, we truly did wrong. This has the end of times attitude in it. So most commentator reader have understood that Gog and Magog are a people trapped behind the barrier of Zulqarnain, and that barrier of Zulqarnain still is there, will be there until the end of times, which that barrier is broke down, and the Gog and Magog will be let loose, and they swiftly swarm from every hill. You know, that feeling is that the as had sarazin میشن. But the point I'm saying, we have hard time we have airplanes, we have satellites, people are flying, going around, nobody is trapped behind any barrier. And if Gog and Magog we have to look in the biblical reference because this is a biblical reference, and I think it was a reference in Semitic languages. Most people said for the yellow people, Chinese, the Asian people. So if we take like this, we end up with a difficulty. So, I mean, I'm not saying it's impossible to interpret it or as many possible people go this line, but I want to keep it on the earth. Now they say, okay, the barrier is there, the barrier keeps this track. But look, they have airplanes to fly, the Mongols airplane, Chinese airplane. I don't think the barrier is there. And although I know the barrier is added to transfer. Although I know فتحت a little bit means they're released, they're getting out. But what you can say, and again, maybe now I'm doing also my own prediction of end of times, is this. They are spreading around. Who these Yajuj and Majuj are, are spreading all around. You know, مثلا میگه مثل مور و ملخ ریخته یا like or spreading around. I mean, because if really we go this line, you stuck in it. And I tell you, people start to give very strange interpretations because when confronted by Christians, apologetics, you say, okay, where are the people that trapped behind a dam, which was around a barrier, which we cannot move? And I mean, there's aeroplanes, everything, cranes. I mean, everywhere we have pictures. Or where is it? And then, unfortunately, you know, some of the Sunni scholars, even the Shia scholars, started to go some strange ways. Some of them, they said, I'm saying very respected scholar, which I mentioned him before. I mean, maybe Yasser Ghazi, you know, they say, okay, maybe these are zombies. Now, you know, now the story again goes back to very, very different dimensions. The Gog and Magog were zombies, and those guys which were scared from there were scared from zombies. And then this barrier is protecting zombies. So this barrier wouldn't be physical. My opinion is that Yajuj and Majuj is a type of Chinese yellow people. And maybe this verses says end of times will they were very spread out. I know I'm interpreting because of facts after the facts, but you see in the recent decades the spread of the many people around the globe, and one of them is also the rise of China and the spread of the Chinese all around. I remember I was in graduate school. We have every city in Canada and in America some China type of thing. He asked me, does Tehran does have a Chinatown too? At that time, I don't think there was a Chinatown in Tehran, but now I'm not sure they are. I'm saying this is still one of the difficulty maybe we have to explain, but I really think if Surah al-Kahf, we can analyze it down to earth. This is a little bit, if we start to look at, because if you call it a zombie, there is a problem. If you really think it's a barrier holding some people behind some barrier, they're trapped in it, like an island, this doesn't work. Then you go, they're non-human beings. I think we're dealing with very strange stuff, how a barrier of iron and lead or whatever the stone can hold them in between. This doesn't make sense. Maybe we have, look to the language of Quran, you have to think of it is a little bit poetic. They swiftly storm every hill is not literal. That's a Farsi. I say, they're feeling everywhere. You everywhere see them. You know, they're spreading out. So this is one other challenge. Maybe to finish it, because I'm sorry, yeah. You know, about the Gog and Mag, we have to do more research on it, but I have a few minutes maybe before we do a more, because Gog and Magog is important to go historically through it, and then, but you know, uh, they, as I said, this word exists in the Hebrew, exists in other Semitic languages. Maybe I have to, maybe I'll try to present maybe more detail next time. In Bible is used, but the sense of meaning of it is changed in the Bible a little bit. So Old Testament in Ezekiel chapter 38, it talked about Gog as an individual, Magog and his land. But you know, this could mix too. We have Ad and Samud and Hud and Lut. Lut is not Hud and Saleh, and then I mean, sometimes maybe Magog is the tribe, but also the name of a person too. And then you see it says, but when we ending up in New Testament Revelation, the last book of the Bible, last book of New Testament, Revelation, which is Apocalypse, is really cryptic, a coded book about maybe Christians, you know, the evangelicals understood predicting future. Barter and another one say, no, it's not predicting future, but you see the majority of Christians thinking it's telling of end of times. And that's one reason this Zionism, Christian Zionism is very strong, because they think that book promises that the state of Israel should be established, but the other side, the same book says synagogue of Satan. But the point is that when you are in the Old Testament, you're, as I said, Gog is an individual, Magog is a land. But by the time you go to the New Testament, then Gog from Magog become Gog and Magog. And then this Gog prophecy is meant to be fulfilled at the approach of what is called the end of days, but not necessarily the end of the world. So you see, there is a prophecy of end of days in Gog. And then we may have to say that maybe Quran is doing some dialogue, some intertextuality. You know, that especially the verses of Surah Al-Anbiya, maybe it is some end of times in it. I want to skip from connecting into the dam. And as I said, my opinion was that the end of times, and then end of times are two levels. The coming of Messiah, Hazrat Mahdi, or really the end of times, which is the Qiyamah. These two are different. And the time between them. The Jewish prophecy, if you see, it seems more matched to before coming of Messiah. It says the Gog prophecies must be fulfilled at the approach of what is called the end of days, but not necessarily the end of the world. I think this is روزهای آخر زمان برای آخر دنیا. I think we have to distinguish between it. Through the scatology, we Gog and Magog as enemies to be defeated by the Messiah. If I make the tabir, Gog and Magog are the Chinese people, this wouldn't be very good, but this is the Jewish prophecy, which would usher in the age of Messiah. One view within Christianity is more starkly apocalyptic, making Gog and Magog here indicating nations rather than individuals, allies of Satan against God at the end of millennium. So this makes again that Surah Al-Anbiya versus the complication. It seems there is, at least in Jewish and Christianity, Gog and Magog has some end of times. Yajuj and Majuj have some end of times understanding, but then I'm not going, but interesting in Ezekiel when it says Gog of the land of Magog, somehow talks about the your horses, your horsemen fully armed, and a great horde with large and small shields, all of them brandishing their swords. Persia, Kush is related to the all African type of civilizations. So it seems, and even in the early Old Testament, there is something about big armies, end of times. Then the revelation is very complicated. Maybe I'm not sure whether we want to read it, because it says, I saw an angel coming down out of heaven, having the key to the abyss, holding in his hand a great chain. He sees the dragon, that ancient serpent who is the devil, or Satan. So somehow it's this angel, and bound him for 1,000 years. Is it the 1,000 years after Messiah have came? Because some people think after Hazrat Mahdi has came, the really metaphysically the world would be changed, like Maharamazan, that the shayateen are in chain. Is it something like that? Then he threw him in the abyss and locked and sealed over him to keep him from deceiving the nations anymore until the 1,000 years were ended. This is the Christian's belief. There is 1,000 years, the end of times. So from end of days to the end of the world, there is 1,000 years of good. The period of the Hazrat Mahdi's rule takes 1,000 years. But this is Christian prophecy. We don't need really to harmonize it. After that, he must be set free for a short time. Again, it seems he's and then I saw thrones on which were seated those who had been given authority to judge, and I saw the where is the Gog and Magog? Okay, I mean, let's skip this part. And when the 1,000 years are over, Satan will be released from his prison. I mean, some similarities to Harry Potter, those Voldemort. But okay, I'm just saying, those stories also were influenced or inspired by these kind of part of Bible. And will go out to deceive the nations in the four corners of the earth, Gog and Magog, and to gather them for battle. So means this goes so end that this Gog and Magog, after the good 1,000 years, after the coming of Messiah, again side with Satan, and maybe in the number they are like the sand of the seashore. So that's a famously always people thought they're very huge in numbers. They march across the breadth of the earth to surrender the camp of God's people, the city he loves. But fire came down from heaven and devoured them, and the devil who deceived them was thrown into the lake of burning sulfur, where the beast and the false prophet had been thrown. Okay, these are complications here. We have something about Dabbat al-Arz beast, and they will be tormented day and night forever and ever. I mean, the book of Revelation is so hard to understand anything, but I think if there is enough here, we can feel maybe really this verse of Quran is some dialogue of intertextuality, something on Gog and Magog is about end of time. But then we have to see who is really Gog and Magog, but I think we can at least not tie this to the dam, the barrier, because we want to tie them that they're trapped because of that dam. That barrier dam then become non-physical. I mean, iron is symbolic, and then we know either we have to go zombie stuff or there is no people trapped. I stop here. I'm very thankful for your patience and enthusiastically waiting for your questions.